Good evening and welcome everyone to another Meta Centre event. It's such a pleasure to have you here, but also for Ayya Kārunikā to be here. Ayya is a long-term supporter and friend of Meta Centre, and importantly, she is someone who I consider as a really good Buddhist friend. And in particular, she is so warm-hearted to share Buddhism to everyone, and in such ways where she always tries to see if there's different ways we can share Buddhism. And also she's got a keen interest in the youth as well. At the moment, she's staying at Santi Forest Monastery, and she's a senior resident monastic there. And she's been in monastic life for over 12 years. So lots and lots of experience there and lots of wisdom to share with us. And she received her full ordination as a bhikkhunī in 2014 at Dhammasara Nuns Monastery in Western Australia, where she lived and trained for over a decade with Ajahn Hāsapaññā. She's also a student of Ajahn Brahm and Ajahn Brahmali. But in particular, I really love the fact that she can share the teachings in a very practical and comprehensive way to people of all ages. And she's also got experience in conducting retreats as well. And she has a PhD in microbiology and worked as a scientist. And I love how she integrates that into her talk sometimes as well. And she has been the building project manager for the construction of Dhammasara main monastery complex. And she's worked with many volunteers over the years. So Ayya was born in Sri Lanka, but she's been living and working in Australia for over 2 decades. She's got a real passion to share her experience and knowledge, and we also are very grateful to have her here with her experience and knowledge as well. So Ayya today will be talking about achieving true success. So not just worldly success, not just mundane success, but true success. So I would love to hear more about that. And we'll start first with meditation as usual, and then we'll go into that talk. And we will have plenty of opportunities for question and answers. And you know we like to make these very interactive. So for those who are here in person, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them. We also have some pieces of paper around that we can hand around. You can write your questions in there. And then also for those who are online, you can unmute yourself and ask those questions, or you are also welcome to pop it into the chat and I can facilitate those discussions as well. So I'm really looking forward to this evening. I think it's going to be very special and I hope you enjoy it as well. So Ayya, thank you.
Okay. These days I like to call meditation much more like relaxation, because it's a busy weekday night, right? Everybody would like and incline their mind to the idea of relaxing. That's much more inviting, because for some, when you say meditation, not sure whether I know it, whether I can do it, how to do it, so many questions. But relaxation, we all know how to do it. But what I'm going to try to do is, do you know how to relax properly? Right? So what happens to most of us when we try to relax, especially on a busy day or a busy night after a long day, is we really completely let go everything and we fall asleep. That's okay if you have a long meditation time to do, because you can have a little nap, rest, and then wake up and then meditate. But since we only have 10 minutes, then I invite you to tell your mind that I'm going to relax, but I want to enjoy my relaxation, which means you have to stay awake, right? You have to tell your mindfulness, I have to be alert and I'll relax as much as possible my body and mind, and I want to be here to experience that. So give clear instructions to your body like that, and then sit in a way that is quite relaxing for you. It is helpful to keep your upper body a bit erect, because that helps you to stay alert. The moment you lean back, the tendency is to fall asleep. So relax your body, let your chair or the floor to take your weight, so your muscles are not holding you in any way, nobody's looking at you. You can close your eyes, everybody has their eyes closed. So it doesn't matter how you sit, but sit in a way that's really that you can let go of the body and allow it to rest. And And just bring in the idea of kindness and gentleness to your body. Because sometimes we are quite abusive of your bodies, you know, trying it to do things that it's difficult for it to do. But right now, nothing to do, nowhere to go, so you can say thank you for the body and say, I allow you to have a bit of rest. And I also especially ask you to pay a bit of attention to relax your face. This is important. And the trick is to bring in a beautiful smile as you relax your entire face, your jaws, your cheeks, eyes, everything. Just let it just relax with a smile. And notice how your mind starts to relax when you smile, when you have a bit of happiness coming in. So just allow your mind to rest, saying, for the next 10 minutes, I've got nothing to do, nowhere to go, just happy to be here and rest. A relaxed body is delightful. Also, a relaxed mind is delightful. See whether you can notice a bit of delight coming in as you relax deeply into this moment. And also, as you're relaxing, if you notice your breath coming in and going out all by itself, just be a distant observer of your breath. As the breath is coming in, imagine you are imbuing yourself with peace. And as the breath is going out, just relax your entire being. As we are coming close to the end of this very short meditation, check your mind and see whether it become a bit peaceful than you started. Were you able to experience a bit of delight coming up in your body and your mind? And ask yourself, what worked? What didn't? So we learn for the next day, next time, how to relax properly. So at the third ring of the gong, you can open your eyes and come back to listen to the dhammatalk. Okay. So, the topic is achieving true success. And I would like to ask the audience here as well as the audience in the web online, what do you consider as success? What do you want to achieve in order to be successful? It would be nice to hear a little bit so that I can get started, because maybe you already know and I don't have to talk about it. So, yeah, you can say anything, whatever you think.
Yeah, that being able to follow the factors of the Eightfold Path.
Okay, that's great.
Wow.
What else? But is that what normally people consider, like in the world, as achieving success?
Someone online has said, a heartful, fulfilling life.
Heartful, yeah, okay, great, yes, yes. And in order to have that, what do normally people want? To have a heart fulfilling life? People think about money, right?
Money, someone else said money.
Money. How about a big job?
Yes.
Yes.
Good relationships.
Good relationships, yeah. How about a big house, a car, some experiences, going on holidays? Is that important for success or not? Are they part of being a successful person? Sure. It's true. It's actually, we don't have to be in denial. This is often, by many people, considered as being successful with your life, right? If you don't have a lot of these things, people think we are not successful. But the real question is, the next question I'm going to ask, do you think you could die tonight? Is that a possibility? Yes? Like as you're walking down the street, you can trip, fall, hit your head on the wrong spot, and that's the end of your life. Now, if that happens, can you take your money with you? Can you take your career with you? Can you take your loved ones and all those relations with you? Your big house, big car, your experiences? How about all that knowledge? Can you take all of those with you? What can you take if there is life after death? I mean, not everybody here may believe in life after death. That's another topic for another Dhamma talk. But if you do have, what happens? What was it about? What was life about? What would be your last thought moment if you are in front of death? What was that all about? That all these things you did? Or do you feel that your heart is filled with some joy, happiness, having done good things, having lived a meaningful life? So what is actually true success? Is it about the things outside, the material things? It's part of it. But it is not the whole of it, isn't it? Because for many people, success is focusing on that. And we see many people who have achieved all of that. They're very rich, they have nice mansions, they have relations, they have everything. But have you also met people like that who are still not very happy, quite depressed, quite down? Doesn't seem like that's a useful kind of success. That is good together with your mind being at ease, mind being happy, mind having joy, right? Being able to be uplifted, a mind that is kind of bright, right? Then you are a successful person regardless of all of those external things. Now, have you seen people who even live on the streets sometimes look very happy, contented, but they've got not all those other things. And sometimes some of those people, when death comes, they go well, but sometimes you don't even know what they have done. I want to share a story from my own life. This was when I was quite young in university first year. I'm from Sri Lanka, so tropical country. So I have not known really about winter. Didn't hardly know anything about winter. So I was studying in Delhi. And Delhi there is winter. But of course I was only 21 at the time, just a student. So 21-year-old girl, what are they most concerned? Dressing up nicely. Right? And I don't know what it is to be really cold, because Delhi at the time wasn't that bad. But just because they said it's winter, I had a jacket. I got into a train because traveling from Colombo, I have to go back to Colombo. So Delhi to Colombo flight is very expensive. So Chennai to Colombo is affordable. So our plan was to catch the 36-hour train from Delhi to Chennai and then catch the flight. So we had a 36-hour overnight train. So me and my housemate, both dressed in our nice Indian shalwar dresses, with one jacket between the two of us, got into the train in the evening. So a little later, as it was falling into night time, my friend got a bit cold. I was still not very cold. So I gave her my jacket, and then a little later she was sleepy, so she started sleeping. I wasn't still sleepy, nor was I cold. So I continued to just sit there. Slowly, everybody in the train, that carriage, was now going to bed. And slowly we were reaching central India. And if you've ever been into central India in the middle of winter, you know what it's like. It's really cold, especially at night. And I started to become extremely cold. I have never experienced cold like that. And I have nothing to cover me except my lovely dress. So then I don't know why, I also didn't feel like waking up my friend and getting her jacket, and then she's going to be cold anyway. Also, by the time when you reach a certain degree of cold, your head isn't also working really well. You can't think. And I also didn't know that you could even die being so cold, so I didn't realize that it was life-threatening at all. So I just continued to sit there shivering, and almost fainting or like really becoming unconscious. It was that cold. And by the corner of my eye, I saw sometimes some beggars from the street also get into the train. It's illegal, but people just close one eye. They just allow them to go. They can't afford to pay the ticket, but they just get in anyway. So I saw one beggar was there, a typical Indian beggar with all the curly hair and with a really dirty blanket, sitting in one corner. And he came down from where he was sitting. He was sitting in a bit of an elevated platform and put his blanket over me. It was really warm from his body heat. And normally I wouldn't go there anywhere near, because it's really dirty. It's from a beggar, right? This is usually, and I'm wearing this lovely dress, this pretty, trying to be a pretty person. At that time, that was the most amazing thing. I grabbed it and wrapped it around me. But at that time I saw he didn't have anything else. He was bare-chested. The blanket was the only thing he had. He had a sarong for his lower body, and he had this blanket, and that's all. So now by giving it to me, he was going to be cold. But at the time, I didn't even realize that he actually saved my life. I now realize, because him being on the streets in India, if you know the stats, you would know how many people die during winter, how many people die during summer. When it's hot, it's really hot. When it's cold, it's really cold. People on the road have nothing much, so it's really tough. But he would have seen this. He would have himself experienced this. So he knew what it is like to be really cold. He also thought this stupid girl doesn't know anything about this. So he put his blanket, and it was such a beautiful thing that happened, right? And he has no ulterior motivation, right? I am never going to see him. He's a stranger. And it didn't even occur to me to give him anything. Nothing, because, I was half dead, half unconscious at the time. I can't even remember what happened. Probably once I warm up, maybe I gave his blanket, and I couldn't even speak the language, so I may have said thank you, and that's it. And I never saw him again. Yet this was somebody who saved my life. And I'm sure, he would know this. He would have joy. He would remember that he had saved. And I don't know how many people, these people. So you think sometimes these people on the street, they haven't done anything. Sometimes they probably live also a very meaningful life helping each other, because they know about suffering, about things. Sometimes we are completely unaware of these things. So it's just one story, but it's not only about that for us as well. Sometimes, especially these days and times, people are living in a bubble. Now I have to tell you that I have seen zombies. They exist. I don't know about you. I have seen them. Why I say this? Sometimes when you walk through the big cities, you feel like dead bodies walking. I can't see people. I can't feel anybody. So if that's not zombies, I don't know what they are. Do you know? Have you seen them now? Can you recognize this? It wasn't like that 20 years ago. Like if you walk, people make eye contact. People say hello. They smile. They say good morning. Just you feel somebody's there, right? And people are also aware. Sometimes they help you with something or the other. If you need help, people are very caring or very aware of other human beings. These days, you would go through, people are far away. They have their things on their ears, or their mind is far away, but they're walking. It just feels like dead bodies walking, right? So self-centered, self-focused, and not aware about what's going on. So how can you help anybody? And how can you even help yourself? So you're not even with yourself, but when you say self, it is about selfish in the sense about what you want, what you can get. That is the only focus. They're not even connected with how you are feeling, what do you really need to be happy. So this is why we have been searching all around for true success, meaning to be happy, right? That is success, to be happy. All of those things at the end of the day was to be happy. Good relations, money, job, material things, everything was for you to be happy. That's what we say as being successful. And yet we have all of those things not happy yet. Why is that? Because we have been looking in the wrong place for happiness, right? Material things, outside world, surely can give you some happiness. It's true when it's nice to have a nice meal. It's nice when you listen to nice music, go on a holiday. There is gratification in those things. But how long does it last? How was your last holiday? It's like a dream now. How was that expensive meal you had? Where is it now? Sometimes it even gives you tummy ache, right? You feel like you wasted a lot of money. Sometimes you've gone into this most expensive resort for a family holiday. Entire weekend there was a whole big argument. Did you enjoy your holiday even? This happens, right? So this is the thing. And anyway, even if it was all really nice, still it lasted only that long. And you're still looking for happiness because not satisfied yet. So is that then true happiness? Is that true success? Is that what life is all about? If you are only focusing on that, then I'm sorry, you are not considered probably as a successful person, but more like a failure, isn't it? You achieved all of this, but not happiness. It is not a life that is lived well in a meaningful way. So what happens? Lots of people live like that, and when they come to their deathbed, the last moment, what happens is, what was all that about? What did I do? Not everybody, I'm just telling. There are many people like that. But of course, there are others, and most of us people here and online, these are people, you've been practicing the spiritual path, living a meaningful life to your best ability, being a kind person, good person, generous person, doing good things, So it's fine, but that is exactly where happiness is to be had. It's on another direction, turned inwardly, looking at things, making peace, being kind, being gentle with life. But for today, therefore the entire spiritual path is about these things, becoming successful. So obviously we don't have time to go on to all the topics, but today I'm just inspired. This has been in my mind for a while. So I'm going to talk about just one aspect. And this is taking on board the idea of acceptance as a practice. Trying to learn to accept in the right way. And this is very, very important to understand very clearly. So at the very start, I want to say acceptance has to be done with wisdom. So now, for example, when I say accept what is the challenges or whatever is presented by the world, I am not saying accept your abuse. Very important to remember this, right? Sometimes some people think, oh, I have all this abuse happening, maybe my bad karma, so I just have to endure it and go through life. You see such people. Some people just continue to accept and be within that abusive situation without getting out, finding help or doing anything. That is not correct. So that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when you have this kind of difficult situation, what normally happens is you have fear, you have anger, you have sadness, you have negative emotions coming because of abuse and stuff. It's not easy for us. You just, bite your tongue, and some people endure it. But the idea is, you accept the idea that you understand why it is happening, you understand the conditionality about the person who is doing it, the perpetrator. He or she is also conditioned by things. Doesn't mean that what they are doing is right, but you understand the non-self nature of it, right? They probably have gone through. Who we are is a sum total of what went before. So often people who are like bullies and things like that, they have had hard time themselves, or they are mentally not well, and all these kinds of stuff is there. So you understand. So therefore your negative emotions may not come, because negative emotion isn't going to help you or them. So you understand, now I am in a difficult situation, this is happening to me, but getting negative emotions isn't going to help me or help me find the solution. Because when you are scared, you can't take action. When you are so sad or so angry, also you don't know what's the right solution. So you use that idea of acceptance, understanding, to calm yourself down and at least reach a level of equanimity or to make peace with. Then you find out, what practical things can I do so that I can protect myself, my family, or others. When you are calmed down, you can actually find a good solution. So that you need to take. So this is about what not to accept, but in general, a lot of the times, what life presents, we are constantly rejecting and fighting. Why is there traffic right now? Why did the traffic light go red when I am late? People even fight like this, isn't it? It's true. Sometimes even to that degree. We know traffic light didn't have agenda with you. But sometimes even they shout at the traffic light, right? and anything else. Why this product is not good, or today it's raining, or it's so many bushfires today, or the food isn't good enough, or anything. Most of the time, most of the time people are rejecting. When you reject things, what happens? Your suffering goes up. But if you're able to accept things with understanding, well, sometimes that's what happens. You have paid all this money to get these things, but they've made a mistake. Human error. Welcome to life. And you lose sometimes things. You lose money. It's part of the game. You have forgotten the fine print when you got a human rebirth, that all of these things can happen to you, right? It's like, nothing can go wrong with me. I can't lose anything. Everything have to be right and perfect and to how I want it, right? And when it doesn't happen to the way that you want it, you fight. You don't accept it. And with that, the suffering goes up. So not happiness. But if you're able to try to understand, why is this happening? What happened? Sometimes maybe you ordered some food, but maybe the chef was really unwell and he had a really hard time and he made a mistake. So this happened. So instead you understand, okay, yes, could have been better. My money, of course, is lost now, but at least you can have compassion. Isn't that better? Because it's already gone now. You can't do very much about it. I mean, if you can do something, fine. But if you can't, at times, right? What's the point in fighting? Haven't you seen people fight with life for things you can never correct or change or do anything about? But on and on it goes for decades sometimes. And in suffering, what's the point in that? If you can do something about it, you got to do it. But if you can't do anything about it, you accept it. Right? With understanding the conditionality, how these things happened and why. This is applying right view, understanding things constantly change and things are out of my control. We only have very little control over things. Now, have you tried to control other people, your loved ones? Have you been successful so far? You know that it doesn't really happen. Yeah? It's hard to even change ourselves. It's a struggle, but we need to do things, but out of control. And that is why they're inherently unsatisfactory. That's what samsara is about. But if you're able to sort of understand this is what life is like, you accept these things in a good way, actually you achieve peace. Right? It is possible, and there are many, many, many things in our life throughout the day when you see yourself trying to fight something. Take a step back and see, is this a war I'm going to win or lose? You know it. But very often we step into a battle that you definitely know going to lose because that's what it's like. So then you got to really understand and accept. Of course, there are times that you will do things, but in general, that's why I said it is acceptance with wisdom. The battles that we fight and the suffering that we create, which we know are silly, but we do it habitually. Find out those things and make a change and see how you can accept a lot of these things and even develop kindness, compassion, patience. So in fact, this is one of the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha said, Kanti paramam tapotitika, that is in Pali. Kanti is acceptance. Paramam is highest. Tapo is like the practice that you do to overcome defilements. Titika means patience. So patience and acceptance is the highest of the spiritual practices in order to fight your defilements, difficult emotions, difficult states, anger, lust, sadness, worry, things like that, right? So to overcome those, the best method is acceptance and patience, right? And most of us have lived long enough in our life to know that this is true. When we have patience, we are successful. When we are impatient, we have lost it. Same with patience and acceptance. So I want to also just for fun tell a bit of a story, right? And this is about Siddhartha Gautama. Do you know who Siddhartha Gautama was? He was the person who became a Buddha. He was a prince. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. So he was born to a very rich family to begin with. And his wife was called Yasodhara. So they were married quite young, and they were married for some time. And he had a very, very comfortable, beautiful, luxurious life, in fact, because he was in a very rich setting. Singing, dancing, music, nice food, you know, all of those things. And he was in a situation which was kind of very like in an isolated bubble where there was all only, you know, good things. No suffering could be seen because it was in a really artificial kind of a location where, you know, it was all this kind of world, which we have here as well, especially in the cities, you know. It's a very made up, fun kind of world. You don't get to see what's happening. Everything is put away. Do you see crazy people easily on the streets? Do you see really, really old people on the streets? Do you see really sick people? They are pushed away most of the time, right? It's hard to see. They are in homes, they are locked away somewhere. You know, the people, ordinary people are all good looking, you know, healthy, strong, looks like having a good time kind of thing is what we see. We don't really see life. But so Prince Siddhartha Gautama also lived like that, thinking life is fun and great and happy. But one day, he saw somebody who was really old. And it was a shock to him. And then he asked the question, is that what's going to happen to me? Am I also going to get old like that? And he realized old age seems like a lot of suffering because walking is hard, can't see, you know, lots of stuff. Your body aches and hurt. You can't do the things you used to do. So he realized old age is a problem. Then he also saw somebody who's really sick. Up until now, he hasn't really been sick. He had really good health. There are people like this because he's been looked after so well. So when he saw sickness, he realized, wow, can I also get sick? When he realized, well, if you have a body, you can get sick, he realized, wow, getting sick is really painful, really difficult. It's a real problem. And then he came to know about death, dying, and being separated from everything and everybody. And he realized, wow, that's going to be extremely painful. So he realized, why, if I had that predicament, how can I be just singing, dancing, and enjoying all of these things the whole day? I need to spend some time to find a solution for this. This is a real problem. I'm not ready to sort of, you know, face that in a way that is, you know, like a failure. I want to find a solution and also share it with others. Find a solution for suffering, real suffering, not just the suffering of your finances and this difficult person in your life, but this is the suffering that is common to everybody who's born. Unless you die young, old age is coming at you. Sickness coming at you. Death definitely coming at you. So it's a problem. But you know, Siddhartha Gautama and Yasodhara were a very loving couple. They were known to be very affectionate, good couple, but they were also really intelligent people. They have been practicing for quite a while in good practices, so they would be quite intelligent, but also very kind people, because these were people who got enlightened in that life. So they were not really, you know, and not just a husband and wife who only indulged in the sensual world, but a nice husband and wife who would have actually from time to time had a nice intellectual conversation about good things, about life, about issues. So when Siddhartha Gautama became aware of this real problem that is ahead of them, he would have definitely spoken with his wife and had a conversation. What are we going to do? We can't just continue to live like this in this heedless way, right? We need to find a solution. So they would have agreed, his wife would have understood, because this is not how normally the story is being told. Because what happened was when Yasodhara gave birth to their first child, that very night, Siddhartha Gautama left. And everybody says, how could he do this? It's so painful for the wife, and how could he just leave? That's a terrible thing to do, is what we normally hear. Right? If that was the case, yes, but you can't imagine somebody with that kind of integrity, that kind of kindness, that kind of wisdom would just leave your wife and child overnight like that without telling. So they would have had a really nice an agreement, and they would have both want to look for freedom, a solution. But Yasodhara, being a woman, understands. I mean, also they can't go out together and still being so bonded, find a solution together. You know you have to give up these things and go on your own and find a solution. So therefore, going together isn't a thing, and Yasodhara can't go being a woman alone. It's not safe to just go into the forest. She would be, murdered or things like that, it's not safe. So she knew she would have to stay. He would have to go find a solution, come back and tell her as well. But even though you know this, is it easy for a very loving couple to be separated? Not at all, right? Separation from the loved is extremely painful. So it is, then they realize with right view, well, this is enduring some pain in the short term for the long-term benefit for all, for me, for you, and for everybody else, right? So they could see that you need to do this in order to find something. So how did Yasodhara endure that difficulty, that pain, that, suffering? Is by understanding with right view why you did that, why you are taking this. Because we too, like Yasodhara or Siddhartha Gautama, have to do sacrifices in our life, have to do things that are difficult, that are sometimes even painful in the short term, but for the long-term benefit and happiness for everybody. But sometimes we are very shy, we are scared, we don't have the courage to do these things, and we just not do them and stay in the suffering on and on for a long time. We don't take that step because we are scared about that short-term suffering. So this is really nice way to think about how she accepted her predicament of her husband leaving her. The next thing that happened was Siddhartha Gautama, when he became a Buddha, when he found the solution, when he found the teachings, when he found the method to escape suffering, he came back. It took him about 7 years for this. He came back to his family to share it with everybody. So by that time, his son was 7 years of age. So then Yasodhara tells the son to go and ask for his inheritance from his father. And everybody thinks that she meant go and ask because he was the one to become the king. So now to ask to become the king. But being the wise woman she was, I think that was not what she meant. She realized even her son is only 7. Even 7-year-olds can die. Life is uncertain for anybody. I can't hang on to him till he grow up and then get him to go and find the solution for suffering. He is a man, I mean in the right gender, because it was at the time only available for men to begin with, because it wasn't still set up to have a safe environment for women. So, but he can now go with his dad and get started with this process and end his suffering. And that is the true inheritance, the true happiness, the true success of life. So she asked her to go. But is it easy for a mother to be separated from your 7-year-old child? Not at all, right? It's a painful thing. It was painful enough to let go of the husband, now to even let go of the child. And this is again not how it is seen. It is seen Yasodhara asked the son to go and ask for inheritance, and the Buddha took the son away. How terrible. It is what usually people think, how could he do, poor Yasodhara? But I don't think that's how it was. So Yasodhara also endured that through understanding, through accepting, through realizing, through wisdom, this thing. The last thing I want to say about Yasodhara is when it was possible for women to ordain, it was all those royal ladies were the first batch of nuns. And they were the ones who wore only the fine clothes, ate only the fine food, and, slept in really fine beds. And now when you become a nun and go into the forest, you wear all rag robes, eat food that was thrown out by people, sleep under the foot of a tree. Is that going to be easy for somebody who has never done like that? Is it even easy for us to do that? Not so easy, right? It's tough. And they say even at the time of the Buddha, the support for nuns weren't as great as it was for the monks. So it was hard time. They had to endure hardship. And she didn't go crying thinking, oh, all my nice things, now I have to endure why and stuff. She accepted the situation, understanding this is what it is like to deal with, this is all we've had, so we have to use that, whatever we have, the resources, and put into practice so you can be liberated. And she did that, and she became one of the arahants, one of the enlightened beings. And it is said that Yashodhara took her entire path of practice is a practice of acceptance, accepting. These were just 3 big things that I mentioned that she had to accept, but I'm sure in life there's much more things. You're constantly presented with challenges. We are like Yashodharas. We are also like Siddhartha Gautamas. Our life is not that different. Yeah, we also have these kinds of stuff happening. So instead of rejecting life constantly and complaining about it, fault finding with it, learn ways to accept with wisdom. Then you will truly become successful with whatever you're doing, whether it is things about hurdles and difficulties in your spiritual path, whether it is about your family life, whether it is about your job and career or anything else. Whatever it is, if you can direct your mind. I can't tell you exactly what, because all these are so diverse, but it is your homework to try to see, how can I accept this situation? How can I make the best use of what is being presented to me? Because as Buddhists, you would know the idea of cause and effect, which is called karma and vipaka. So, or karma in some people here. So that is your past actions. Past intentional actions have consequences. So a lot of the things that are being presented to us, that we receive from the world, are also what we have done as the consequences of some of our past actions. So when we receive it with good attitude, right? An attitude of, how can I make the best use of the situation that I have? Sometimes it is those difficult situations that make you grow in wisdom, that make you a beautiful person with beautiful spiritual qualities, because you know what it is like that beggar, you know, he knows what it is like to be on the street, what it is like and how to do things. So it's just, just an analogy, but difficulties in life isn't always bad. If you have the right attitude, you can turn it around. So if you are able to have that skill, aren't you becoming a successful person? Because your level of happiness is going to grow up as you are able to accept life with the right attitude and making the best use of every situation. You are heading towards a successful life. Yeah, your mind is more uplifted, mind is more bright, mind is more energetic. You are able to apply yourself in the right way. So this is really important. And the thing that was really the insightful light bulb moment for me was suddenly I realized that whether you call acceptance, making peace, letting go, the result you get is the same thing. When you let go something, you become peaceful. Your happiness goes up, suffering goes down. When you make peace with something, happiness goes up, suffering goes down. When you accept with the right view, with wisdom, happiness goes up, suffering goes down. So this Buddhist idea, because often you hear with Buddhist teachings, let go, learn to let go. But people ask, it's so hard to let go, I don't know how to let go. Letting go seems like, pushing things away. Making peace, I don't know how to make peace. Acceptance, well, that might be a way to look at it as well. Different people find one thing clicks for them. For some people, letting go is easy. For some people, to make peace is easy. For some people, the idea of acceptance is easy. So I just wanted to mention that angle. But where you reach is the same point, a point of increasing your happiness and suffering going down. And you learn how to live life in a skillful, meaningful, good way. Does that make sense to you? Yeah? Yeah, I would like to stop here for a bit and see whether people have agreements, disagreements, further questions. Anything is okay. So I welcome you to ask any, so then I can speak a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Ayya.
Yeah,
Such beautiful teachings, very practical as well, and I love the examples and the stories. We've already got some questions online, so if anyone has any questions in the room or any people who've got questions online, just pop it into the chat. There's also some pieces of paper. David, perhaps if you could share that around, thank you. If you've got any questions, just write it down and give them over to me. But on that last point, which is such a beautiful teaching about acceptance, peace, and letting go, I was actually thinking about earlier when you were talking, when you were asking that question about if we're on our deathbed, we can't take all these things with us. What can we take with us? Actually, when you asked that question, my immediate thought was, actually, there's nothing I want to take with me, but rather that's the moment to practice letting go, if anything. So as I understand with Buddhist practice, that moment where we pass or about to pass or anyone's passing, that's a really important moment. Now, what do you think would be useful for us to remember during that period, or if we're helping someone who's going through that period, what can we do to help them in that last very important moments in their lives?
This is really a good question and a very important one, because the whole idea that at the end, this moment of death is the most important, because all those other things, but this is a predicament that we can't avoid. So when you say let go, unless somebody has practiced the Buddhist path, it's really hard, to let go of your loved ones, let go of your attachments to things. It's not an easy thing to do, right? So when you try to say that, it might be hard for this person, for anybody. People who practice, they will naturally do it because that would have been their practice. But if you rather say and encourage them in a way to accept what is happening, they can relate to that, because a lot of the time at the moment of death, there's a lot of fighting. People are struggling for their last breath, grasping, right? They're really fighting. They're fighting not being able to accept it, change it, getting angry at it. All these things are happening. But whatever you need to tell this person to calm them down, to accept what is happening, accept the process, accept the pain, because for some people it's quite painful, the moment of death. But that is a better outcome if you accept than fight it, because you've got nothing much to do, not much time left to do. But if you are able to accept or make peace, similar things, that is probably very helpful for them to go in a good way than struggling. And that, of course, individual is different. But what is also important is sometimes you can guide them and help them, but there's only a little that you can do. So the whole point of why I chose this subject is also to say that you can't decide many things at the time of death. You have to prepare beforehand for your death, because our mind is conditioned. How we have inclined our mind, that is what's going to come. Now, in order to explain this, I'm going to tell a joke story. Some of you may have heard it. It's from Ajahn Brahm, but it's really a good one. To know that you have not much control over your last moment if you haven't practiced beforehand, right? You can know what to do, but last minute you will see what will happen from this story. So this is a story about a businessman. He had a shop. His whole life was about his shop, and he loved his shop. Every day he worked 7 days a week, morning till evening. That was his life, his passion. And he was getting old, and his wife was a Buddhist. And he thought, finally he said, it's also important to think about your future life. So why don't you also make some merit so you can also get a good rebirth? Eventually we have to, it's nice that you earn lots of money, so I live very comfortably, the family is good, but I'm also concerned about you. Why don't you at least go once a week, once a month to the temple, give a donation and listen to some good teachings so you can have some merit, because that's what normally Buddhists say. And then the husband also thought, well, wife is also right, well, that's important, so I will do that. So He went a couple of times, and one day he hears this story. The monks or the nun giving the sermon says, you know, what matters is your last moment. Last thought moment, if you think about the Buddha, his teachings and his enlightened disciples, you will have a good death. He hears this. He said, okay, now I know what to do. I don't need to go to the temple and give any more donations and listen to all this. He had 3 sons. He said, I will rename my 3 sons Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Buddha is the name of the Buddha, Dhamma is the teaching, Sangha is the monastics. Then I'm pretty sure on my deathbed, all my family will be there. Surely the sons will be there. So there's no way I can forget Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. They are going to be around. So, funnily enough, it also so happened that, you know, he was in his deathbed, an old man, his sons, the wife, everybody was there. So his plan is now working. So he's lying there looking at his sons, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, great, everything is going well. And suddenly he said, if Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha is here, who's at the shop? The moment he said that, he died. It's like a joke story, but this is what it is. Whatever way we have inclined our mind, directed what was important to you, that's going to come to you in spite of you. It's not within your control because the mind is a conditioned thing. This is the Buddhist teaching of non-self, right? So if you want to have a good mind state coming up, you have to start now practicing things, developing some things. And one of the good things is metta, right? Loving kindness. If you practice that a lot, made that a vehicle, that idea of metta, that beautiful unconditional love will come to you as your last thing. Or if you develop compassion, kindness, that will come to you. If you have practiced the idea of acceptance, letting go, or making peace as a meditation, as a practice, that will come to you because you've practiced it. That's the whole point why I gave this talk, in a way, to train now with little things in life to accept. Accept whenever. So when death comes also, you know how to really accept it properly, then you'll be good. But you can't just know it and not practice it and think, I know what to do, I'll do it when I die. It's not going to happen. So if it is important, start inclining and practicing. Whatever you practice a lot, whatever you make much of, that's what's going to be for everything. So bhavana bahulikata is in Pali. So developing and cultivating your mind and doing it again and again and again, bahulikata. So that is how you live and practice and train to become successful. The highest success is really having a successful rebirth, or of course enlightenment, which means no rebirth. So the whole spiritual path could actually be seen as a path towards this, directed towards true success in this way. So whatever is your inclination of your heart, you can take up such a practice. If I may, I would like to say a story from my own life of one of my practices. Again, I have given many Dhamma talks on death and preparation for death and stuff. So for those of you who have heard this, it's a repeat. But for those of you who haven't heard it, let me share it. Because just to say the practice that came to me. This was again when I was young and stupid. Older than before, but still young and stupid. By this time, I have finished university and I was working. And one of my childhood friends have come to visit me, and I've seen him after maybe 2 decades or something, after a long time. So what you know what it's like, you are catching up, and he's also come for work, I'm also working, so it's only the evenings that we have to, hang out and do a bit of sightseeing. It was summertime, so after work, I decided to take him to Penguin Island. This is in Western Australia. That's an island about 1 kilometer into the ocean. You don't have to swim or take a boat. There's a sand bank and you can walk, wade through the water. So we did that in the evening, but strangely enough, that day nobody was going. Usually when I go, there's so many people, and usually we go in the morning. But this time I didn't think about it. right? Anyway, we went to the Penguin Island, sun was setting, we watched the sunset, started walking back. Suddenly, my feet couldn't touch the floor. And you know why I was stupid? I can't swim. What was I doing in the ocean, right? I can't swim. And evening, that's why nobody was there, high tide. The currents are coming. And we have both got carried away with the current into deep waters very quickly. And there I was about to drown. And my friend can swim, but he's only a small fellow. He's not going to be able to carry me and swim. We are both going to drown because it's quite far. So it has to be a very quick decision, and he had to take off. I said, go and see whether you can find somebody. I'll try and see whether I can stay afloat. What else can you do? So I was doing all kinds of movements to try and keep my head above. After a while, not that long later, I started to feel all my muscles were getting fatigued because it's very difficult. And then I also, reality really hit me because I said we left the island after sunset. It's getting dark. It's tiny little head in the vast expanse of water. Even somebody came, will they see me? Chances are my survival are next to nothing. So I realized, oh, that's it. And you know, by this time, even though I was a born Buddhist, this was the first time that I've actually started practicing the Dhamma, started listening and understanding the teachings. I thought, what a shame. You know, I just started and I'm going to die right now. You know, that's terrible. So I had this wish, you know, may I be born in a place that I could continue my practice. But of course, I don't know whether that's going to work or not. Then when you are faced with that, out of desperation, you'll do anything. So I remember power of truth affirmations. I also did that. May I be saved by the power of the good qualities of the Buddha. So you do all of those things, but you know, nothing's happening. So anyway, then I realized, okay, with that, like, you know, doing that, those are the only two things I could do. I let go. I decided, well, it's going to happen. So there's no point. And strangely enough, there was nothing else came to my mind that I was really attached to. There was nothing absolutely, and it was okay. But the strange thing, I mean, this was a little bit like near death, even though this is not near death because I haven't died yet. I haven't even drowned yet. But my mind has started to leave. So death is two things, death of your body and the mind going out. They are not necessarily happening at the same time. So my mind was already starting to release. How I know that? I also started to experience this very bright, powerful light, which the near-death people also experience. Bright light, a lot of peace and bliss. But the thing I want to tell is what happened next. What happened next was I started to remember the good qualities of the Buddha. That is a special meditation called Buddhanusati, recollection of the Buddha's qualities. Essentially, it's not a person's quality, it's just the enlightened mind. What an enlightened mind is like and the qualities of an enlightened mind. I have just learned this recently, so that was there, but I've never done the practice as a Buddhanusati meditation, recollection, in this life. But at the time, I did it properly, like a meditation, very powerfully, and I can't remember after that pain of my body, concerns, nothing. I was beautifully going through that, experiencing bliss in a beautiful state. At that time, I heard this sound, oi, oi, you know, Australians call oi, oi, from the back, not from the mainland, from the ocean side. And there was a guy with a kayak. I very quickly went and held on to the kayak, and that's how I was saved that day. Wow. But the important thing is, where did that practice come? The recollection of the Buddha meditation come from? It gave me a lot of confidence that I would have been a Buddhist in a past life, and I would have practiced and made much of this particular meditation out of all the other meditation that would have been my inclination. And even in this life, at my very last moments of when I was facing death, it came in spite of me. This is to make a point to show the power of these practices. Sometimes these are looked down upon, thinking simple practices, getting into, breath meditation, reaching jhana, all this vipassana, all of this is high meditation, all these other things, metta, who cares about that? They are just, for small people. Serious practitioners do all these other things. But not to underestimate the power of these things. And also in the sutras, the Buddha say that specifically, if you actually have recollection of the Buddha, that the qualities of that you will get a good rebirth, at least your next immediate birth, because your mind is uplifted, thinking about a mind that is free of defilements. That's the inclination of your mind. And also you will come across the teachings of the Buddha, because this is important, because we don't know, we want to get enlightened, but we don't know how long it's going to take. It might happen this life, it might happen in another 100 lives, we don't know. But we want to be able to find these teachings. But if you've done this kind of practice, there is also guarantee. This is in the teaching, but when you read that just like that, you think, maybe, maybe not, who knows. But this is just what happened to me, so I'm sharing that to say that it's probably true. I'm confident if I died that day, I would have been reborn in a place where I would have continued my practice. So it's kind of nice to say. So you ask how and how to guide, is guide them earlier. Tell people you love and care the importance of taking up good practices, whatever it is that is important. Even if you did metta meditation, breath meditation, any kind of these kind of practices, that will come to you at the time.
So inspiring.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. What are the other questions from audience or people?
Your stories always leave me speechless, but that one definitely speechless. So we do have another question.
Okay.
So someone online has said, "Thank you for the delightful talk, Ayya Kārunikā. Beautiful train story. I have a two-part question, so I'll read out the first one first. As you mentioned, the young Prince Siddhartha was very wealthy, successful in the worldly sense. So do you think he would have renounced his worldly life if it was otherwise, not knowing what a pleasant life is? Do you think pursuing worldly gains is useful in that sense?"
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because for some people, when they have not experienced anything, and we may not be aware of these things, but there are such people in the world, many people on the streets and things like that, and in different countries, and they say, so of course when they're in a state of suffering and deprivation, of course they have to come to one level. So of course they will have to come to a certain level for some people if it is important for them. If it is important for them, they would have to sometimes experience them, but not necessarily. For some people, if their wisdom faculty is strong, the difficult lifestyle itself, and by looking at the rest and by seeing that's not the only thing, that they can also understand without having to achieve all this. Now I will again tell you a little bit about what happened to me. At the age of 9, that's a very interesting age. Even kids coming to the monastery, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, ask really profound questions. I think that is the time their perceptions, their views are changing. In the beginning, when they're really little, they're very free. They're not yet taken up things. They're very free. But by age 9, they're getting more bombarded by these things, and they're getting more, But then they ask questions, because they see both sides. They see their parents like this, but they are also outside of that. They're not yet bound. So there are questions. So one thing that I have seen, I have watched around me, and I see getting married and have a family and having kids and all of that seems like fun. But also I could see it's also taking away freedom. I could see my own parents, their whole life was me, taking me to ballet, music, English, this, that, all day long, all week long, driving you around, right? They did not have a life. They were like, the whole life was about looking after the kid. And you see this a lot in the world, right? I was like, I'm not sure whether I'm ready for this. I like my freedom, right? I just looked at outside. I sort of was able to weigh. I can see, getting married and having children is fun, but at a price. And also you're with another person. I can't just say, I want to go and look at a movie. But if the other people doesn't want, if your husband doesn't want, you can't kind of go, right? Or you have an argument and difficulty. So just being by myself is hard enough. To be with another person and deal with this, I also saw that. I mean, some people, it worked well, but you know, it's not the common thing. If you find somebody really, really, you know, matching and great, that might be okay a little bit. But I could see even as a 9-year-old, the pros and cons of this. And I decided I'm not getting married at age 9. And at the time, as a Buddhist, we didn't know about teachings. All we did was pray, which is not a Buddhist practice, but that's how it was in the traditional Buddhist countries when I was young. So this was one of my wishes. May I never get married. May I never have children. Why? I didn't have to do it to know it, right? I just saw it from outside and I analyzed, and it is true. I'm sorry to say this truth. Oh, I'm really sorry. But you know this, right? You know this. Even if you're married and family life is going really, really great, which is happening for some people, not the vast majority, but it is happening. People who are really doing well. But when death comes, when sickness comes, which is going to come, this is why we said old age, sickness, and death is inevitable. The pain is inevitable again, even at that time. So I also saw about the attachment, because I was very attached to my father. I mean, incredible love. And sorry, my mother is here, I love you too. And she knows that I was a lot more attached to my father. But I know the feeling and the holding on to the idea how difficult it would be one day when he's going to die. When I thought about if I have a husband, if I have children, it will be equally or even stronger bonds. Sometimes those bonds are stronger than the bonds to your parents. So I thought if my bond to my father is this big and this difficult, what it would be like to your husband and children. I realized I don't think I can deal with that. So what I was trying to say is it is called in Pali anve. It's by inference. By inference, sometimes you can see material things aren't necessarily going to bring you happiness. So if you are wise enough to be able to do that, then you don't have to perceive those things. You can be in wherever you are and start to see the uselessness of looking for happiness in that outside and instead turn inside. You don't need a single cent. You don't need a lot of time. Happiness is here and now available to you the moment you're able to make peace or accept or let go. So it depends. So for some others, they might have to go through a little bit, have a little bit of suffering afterwards, and then do it, which is what most people do. But not necessarily, but could be.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much, Ayya. Next question from the same person. Sometimes the Buddha talks about birth in a Khattiya or a Brahmin family as an inspiration for some people. In this light, does modern Buddhist practice downplay the role of money or social status? Your thoughts were very helpful for us, Ayya. Thank you.
I don't think so. No. That doesn't downplay anything. It's just all of those things are necessary for a society, for a world to function, right? Did I understand the question correct? Because Buddha understands everything and everybody is equally important. Because sometimes we think, doctors and engineers and all these high-flying careers are important. The cleaners, the rubbish takers are insignificant. But if they go on strike, then you realize also every job, everybody has a part to play. And it is necessary. You need the politicians, that is the Khattiya or the royalty, all of those who are doing the leadership role or running the country. You do need all the farmers and all those to produce. You need the transport. You need every part. Everybody is contributing. So Buddha was actually very inclusive of everybody and appreciated. And I don't know, is that answering the question or is it mostly?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Ayya. Okay, now opening up to the floor here. Does anyone have any questions who are here?
Arguments? Can disagree as well, Who knows? Maybe I'm just sitting and fantasizing something.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing I'll see is the only thing when you sort of ask that question, what do you take with you? Death, the only thing I can think of is your spirit. Because in other words, when you die, it's the nature of the way you are as a person is what the people that are left behind sort of remember the most, I think.
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the Buddhist idea, we don't use the term as a spirit or an atma or a being or a soul, because our consciousness is conditionally arisen and passing away very quickly. But there is a stream of consciousness, like we are like a river. Right? So you see a certain river that you give it even a name. But every moment the river is constantly changing new water. So we are like that. So that stream of consciousness carries through until full enlightenment. It is carried through with your craving. Craving keeps you connected and being born. So what you have with you is your consciousness, your stream of consciousness, which is elevated or depressed. So if you've been living a good life, being a good person, good life in the sense being a good person, kind person, virtuous person, so your intentional actions, or in short, somebody with a kind, good heart, a moral heart, truthful, that will carry forward because that's what is in your mind. Everything else, not all the bad things too. If you've done terrible things, all of those as well. So again, it reminds me to just mention that it is really important that if you want to be successful, truly successful in life, that we accept ourselves for who we are again, because we can accept all these other things, not ourselves, right? So it is important to accept ourselves, understanding I am also who I am from what went before, right? I'm conditioned. So I'm not perfect unless I'm fully enlightened. I have my defilements. I've done things that I'm not proud of. But I was conditioned. You can see why you did what you did at the time. At the time you didn't know, now you might see. So you forgive yourself. It is important. You accept who you are, you forgive yourself. This is really important. And then you apply the same to others. Then you see, well, other people who've done bad things to you, things that are not right, not good, not kind, they were also conditioned like that. There's no point, there's no place in Buddhism for either guilt, regret, remorse, revenge, none of those, because they are not useful things for us. If you die with a heart with this, it's a bad destination, you can see, right? So you need to be able to accept or let go or make peace with these things, do the right thing. This is really important as well. This is something we don't do in life, and we don't do these things ourselves, accept me for myself, and accept other people who are there, forgive them, and also say sorry, ask for forgiveness from the people that you need to do that, because we have done things that are not great. This is very important. Doing that and also recollecting the good things that you have done, the good life you lived as a good, kind person. Yeah, uplifting those, making that a habit is also really important, because that's what will carry forward.
Thank you, Ayya. Another question. Hi, Ayya. Thanks for the talk. You mentioned not to be a doormat when we face injustice, but how do we deal with behavior from crazy people like sociopaths? Thank you.
That's a very easy question to understand. You know, they can't do much about it because they are mentally unwell, right? So you have to take any legal or medical or any other protective. There are many things in place how to deal with somebody, I'm guessing, right? Tina could probably tell the practical things that you could do to do that. But it is your emotional side getting upset. He's stupid, he's sociopath, he shouldn't do this, go and do all this mass killing. He had no choice, he's mad. What can you do when somebody's mentally not well? This is the problem, right? This is really important. This is to understand also. This is very difficult for people to get this when I say it, but take your time to understand it. Sometimes the person who is the victim this life was the perpetrator last life. We don't see it. So we blame. But this goes again and again. Doesn't mean that you accept or you take action, but you don't get upset and angry.
right? You understand this is how things go. They are conditioned. They're mentally not well. So of course you do things to protect yourself. Take all the action you need, but not anger, ill will, negativity, and all that. Instead, have compassion. They're not just only that. I have a friend who is a pedophile. A beautiful person. He's got incredibly good quality. But he has this one thing that is seen as terrible, right, by the world. But that's only one thing. It's a big thing, but that's only one thing. But if you know him well, he's also an incredible, beautiful person. But it's an incredibly difficult thing when you ask what is happening. He's out of control, his mind, the way it's a sickness, it's something coming from the past, something maybe happened to him in the past lives. That's why we never think about that. You really, doesn't mean that you allow him to do what he's doing. You do everything you need. He's currently in jail, but you don't have that negative thing because usually people hate this kind of people, right? Look down upon them in a very terrible way. But instead, you can look at them with compassion, with kindness, with understanding what suffering, because and then they have to pay for their intentional actions in future. So they're heading towards a difficult destination. Also, those psychopaths, all of these things, they don't know what they're doing. They're mentally not well. Yet they have to pay for their intention. So what is your response? When you understand the conditionality, is your response is compassion. Right? You wish them well, may they be free from this difficulty, free from this, unwholesome kind of behavior. May wisdom come to meet them. May they be released from that cycle. Because these cycles go on and on and on. So life after life, it's so hard to break free. And the amount of suffering. So instead, having that kind of ill will, negativity, when we see social injustice and all that, we don't need to get angry. You can have a heart of compassion and help the situation. That's a better way. This is very important.
Thank you so much, Maya. Next question. So, what does spiritual success look like to you?
Oh.
So the question you asked all of us at the beginning, what does that look like for you?
For me, it is if I see that I am getting more peaceful in my mind, not as agitated. If I'm experiencing a bit more joy in my life, if I'm at ease with life, that's success for me. Because that's heading in the right direction. Because the opposite is what the Buddha said is like we are on fire, right? Fire of passion, fire of anger, fire of stupidity. We are constant. The last one is like, I know, who are you to tell me? That ego, that's a fire as well. The other two you already know as fires. If I see those fires are going, I'm getting a bit more cool. I'm able to deal with life more calmly, more peacefully. That's
wonderful. So we've got lots of thank yous online. Thank you so much, Ayya Kārunikā, for such an insightful talk and sharing your personal stories there, including your near-death experiences. Very powerful. Thank you, Metta Centre, for the event again. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Someone else has said, thank you, Ayya. Thank you, Ayya, for a very inspiring talk. So I think all round, thank you. Okay. It's always wonderful to hear your stories and your sharings and very practical advice as well. And for those who want more, Ayya Kārunikā is coming back next week for the Metta Convention, which I'll tell you more about. But before we do, I invite you for a dedication of merits for us to close today's session.
So like a chanting?
Yeah.
Which chanting normally do?
Anything you like. So our speakers have full reign, whatever you feel like doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
So maybe I will try to do it in English. I hope I will not forget. I don't have my support dance around. I'll give it a go in English. That's it. Thank you. May the merits made by me now or at some other time be shared among all beings here infinite, immeasurable, by rejoicing in this cause, these gifts of merits given by me, may beings all forever live a happy life, be free from hate, and may they live a path secure, and all their good wishes succeed. Anyway, I made a mistake. Good enough.
The message was certainly felt, and the intention was as well. So thank you so much, Aya. So Aya, you're from Santi Forest Monastery. Do you have any announcements from Santi that you'd like to share with all of us?
Okay, the only announcement that comes to my mind, we are on a 3-month deep meditation retreat period, which is called Venus Retreat. It comes to an end towards October, and we have a nice gathering and a celebration, which is called Kachina, on 19th of November. It's a Sunday. So everybody's welcome. It's a day of a lot of nice Dhamma, but also food and getting together. It has festivities, but also spirituality. So it's a nice day to be around.
Amazing, thank you. So hope everyone can attend, and also if you would like to visit the temple, perhaps after the rains retreat, you're able to attend, and that's at Santi Forest Monastery in Bundanuta, the Southern Highlands. A beautiful, beautiful place. The energy there is incredible. And also, as I was mentioning, next week we have the Meta Convention. So we've got some flyers available for those who are here in person. For those who are online, I've just popped that onto your screen. So we have a full week, Dhamma-packed week. It's going to be incredible. We've got speakers from all around the world, from all the Buddhist traditions. And on the Friday as well, we're going to feed everyone for free. So you can come for a big party. And we've got food from different countries. And it's just going to be a wonderful night to celebrate. And on the Saturday and Sunday, we have a full conference downstairs in the auditorium, and you can join these events online or in person, except of course the food. We can't quite deliver that to you just as yet, but it's going to be a really special week next week. So I really invite all of you to participate, and it's a completely free program, which is fantastic. And in addition to that, after next week, we have our weekly events. So every Monday we have meditation. So if you'd like to learn more about meditation or get back into the practice, you're welcome to join us on Monday evenings. On Tuesday evenings, we have yoga. So and all of those are here. And then on the Wednesday night, we have these Buddhist talks that will be continuing as well. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, see you here. If you would like to know more about Metta Centre, you can check our website out, Facebook. You can also be on our WhatsApp group if you're not on there already, where you can just pop your phone number into the chat, or you can write it in the red book there, as well as if you want to join our newsletters. We send that out every week, and you can just share your email and we can do that for you. If you would like to support the work that we do, you are welcome to offer a donation. And we have a donation box here, and also for those online, we've also put our EFT there as well. And shortly, I'm going to also pop down Santi's details as well. So if you'd like to support Santi Forest Monastery, you can also make that donation. And for those who are watching this on YouTube, we're going to put that in the description below. So we will share more about Santi Forest Monastery. Okay, so thank you all so much for joining. It's so wonderful to have a community of friends to practice with, and of course, good speakers like Ayya Kārunikā. So thank you again so much for coming all the way from Santi.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Don't want to leave. Did you know? You probably do. I think it's from the commentaries. I love Yasodhara's story. So I did some research about this, and this isn't something that often people talk about, but I have read about how when the Buddha when Siddhartha left the palace, Yasodhara actually would find out things about what he was doing, and she would actually parallel his practice. So when she found out that he had left the fine clothes and he was just wearing rags, she actually did the same, even though she was in the palace.
Right.
When she found out that he was no longer sleeping in the high beds and was just sleeping on the ground, she actually paralleled that in the palace as well. When he started taking less and less meals, she would actually do that too. I don't know if you've heard that before.
Yes, I have heard that.
And
yeah.
I actually find that really, really touching.
Yeah.
And so even though, and I agree completely with your description, because sometimes the way that the story is talked about is as if the Siddhartha just sneaked out in the middle of the night, and Yashoda was in tears and then didn't see him until he popped his head out again.
Yeah.
But actually, that's not the case. It was clearly something that both of them had talked about. It was something that she knew was happening. There were, of course, good reasons why she couldn't go with him, because he couldn't have just another female wandering with him, right?
Exactly.
And then that additional information about her practice paralleling his, I think is very, very touching.
Very, very touching. And that is good evidence to show that he just didn't, they had an agreement and they were trying to do it. And she had to do it in the palace as much as possible. And, you know, and even in the palace, then doing all of that is hard, because it's giving up all of that, accepting that hardship, difficulty, understanding. The benefits. So it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And the other part of the story that I don't think people talk about enough is that when the Buddha came back, there was the story about what you described about Rahula going to ask for his inheritance. And then Siddhartha, or Buddha at that time, he also went and saw Yashodhara. And when he went back to see her, he said to Mangalana Sariputra at the time, whatever she does, just allow her. And when he walked into the room, she fell to her knees and touched his feet to pay respects. And he actually said, he praised her and said that she had been with him for lifetimes upon lifetimes upon lifetimes to support him. And without her, he would not have been able to do what he's been able to do. And again, that's something I think that people don't talk about.
This one I didn't know. I didn't remember.
And it is very beautiful. And I wonder whether sometimes people don't talk about these things because, as you know, sometimes people will downplay the role of the female. And to elevate her to such an extent is something I think people prefer not to emphasize. But when I found that, whether it's true or it's not in the sutras, it's probably in the commentaries, I just found it very touching.
Probably it's true. This is the thing. So there's not enough real evidence in the sutras, very little about it, but there is Bhikkhuni Ayya and commentary. So a lot of it could be true, but what we can also do is like influence, like just understanding what they are, and have the right attitude. But the thing is, people take their own defilements and look through how they would and do it, and this is really not good. But the other way around is very inspiring, very beautiful, and it's important.
And I suppose good evidence of that to draw that inference was when there was the previous Buddha, and when Siddhartha, or who he was at that time, when he met that Buddha, the previous Buddha, he made that aspiration. And Yashodhara, in her form in that life, made a similar aspiration that she will be there to support him. So that could also be an inference, and hence why they were reborn.
They said they were husband and wife for 500 years. So it's like a 500 number was like to show around about that figure, not 5,000 or 5 million, but a few hundred years. Or something.
It's very inspiring.
And that is true, because for a lot of people, it is true. They are born again and again, mothers and parents and children, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters. They go because they are the ones you know.
We've got that
so you go, so it's possible. It's kind of nice. Thank you for sharing.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Right. So sorry, that was a bit of an aside. But thanks for joining everyone online. See you next time.